Making tons of money in Stardew Valley is always fun. Of course, you could fill up your entire farm with tons of ancient fruit or star fruit and then turn them into wine. But what if we could make about 250,000 gold every 4 days with ease? It just takes some initial setup and then you won't have to do anything except for harvest and make 250,000 every 4 days. I'm currently trying to make 1 billion gold in Stardew Valley, which is no easy task. So, setting up multiple money-making sources is pretty important. Luckily, this one works out pretty well. If you want to see my progress on the Billionaire Challenge, consider checking it out. I'm pretty sure we all know that fairy rose honey is pretty profitable. I mean, when you have the artisan profession, each jar of honey will sell for 925 gold. But there will always be one big problem with honey. The most profitable honey only comes from fairy roses, which can only grow during fall. And then during the rest of the seasons, your bee houses are producing unprofitable, boring honey. Well, Ginger Island is our savior in this. On Ginger Island, you can place a ton of bee houses and they will continue to produce flower honey forever, no matter the season. And of course, we will be going for fairy rose honey for the big honey profits. Bee houses are actually quite expensive to craft. They require 40 wood, 1 iron bar, and 8 coal, and a single serving of maple syrup. I just bought all of the coal and iron that I needed from Clint, but if you don't have 17 million gold like I do, you can farm for coal and iron or pretty easily in the regular mine. I made a video on how to farm coal if you want to check that out. Maple syrup is actually the toughest one to get here, but there is a way to get tons of the stuff pretty easily. Step 1 is to get as many maple seeds as you can and plant them in the desert. Yes, you can actually plant trees in the desert and they will grow like normal, and the desert is actually the perfect place to plant them because there is so much open free space here for us to use. Planting and growing trees always seemed like a little random to me. Some of them grow and some of them just don't. So I always make sure to use tree fertilizer whenever I want to grow some trees. Tree fertilizer is pretty cheap to craft as it only costs 5 fiber and 5 stone. So I just always make them when I need them. They help the trees grow faster, and any planted tree seed will grow if you use tree fertilizer on them. Once all your trees are fully grown and ready to be milked, you'll need some tappers. I know there's a new and improved heavy tapper, but farming for radioactive ore is too much of a pain for me. So I will just go with the regular old tappers. They need 2 copper and 40 wood to craft. As you can probably deduce so far, we are going to need a ton of wood. I think I crafted about 350 bee houses and over 100 tappers. If you are low on wood, you could also plant a bunch of trees on the desert and just chop them down. Or you can buy some wood from Robin. After a couple of days, your maple syrup will be ready and you can start crafting some bee houses. Let's head over to Ginger Island and build our honey empire there. Now we just need some fairy rose seeds. You can buy them at Pierre's store for 200 gold each. They're only sold in full, but I bought Pierre's missing stock list from Mr. Keith's Walnut store. So now Pierre stocks all seeds no matter what the season is. I was under the impression that I could place 1,000 bee houses on Ginger Island, so I instantly tried to plant some fairy roses on the beach under your farm. To my surprise, you can't grow stuff here. This made things much more complicated. And to make it worse, you can't plant crops on the grass either, meaning you are actually a little bit limited on how many bee houses you can have. Of course, you can place as many bee houses as you want, but without the flower, the honey they produce isn't worth it. Unless I am mistaken, over here to the left is the only place on Ginger Island where you can grow crops, except for the right in front of your farmhouse, of course. Here on the patches of dirt is the only place where you can grow crops. It seemed like a very small space, but I wasn't ready to give up just yet. So I tried my best to plant as many fairy roses as I could and place as many bee houses within their range as I could. To make your life much easier, I would recommend using the Lux retaining soil with your flowers. The fairy rose takes 12 days to grow, which is quite long. You could manually water them or you could use a sprinkler, but the Lux retaining soil just makes life so much easier. Something very important for me, to make it impossible to accidentally harvest a flower, because that has happened to me way too many times since I wanted a ton of bee houses. It could be pretty easy to accidentally pick up the flower when rushing through here. I think I did pretty well, but I know there's a more optimal way to place these bee houses. I managed to fit just under 300 bee houses in this small space, and most of them are in range of the flowers. My favorite bee house layout looks like this. I know that you can accidentally harvest the flower here, but I just like how it looks and it's very symmetrical, and to me it just looks pleasing to the eye. Alrighty, that is everything you need to know to get a ton of bee houses on your Ginger Island farm. Every 4 days, all of these bee houses will produce fairy rose honey that sell for 950 gold each. Let's harvest all of these and see how much money we can make. I will admit that this layout I ended up with is kind of like a maze. Navigating around it isn't that great and these bushes really do get in the way. But I'm sure after I've harvested these a few times, it will get easier and I would be able to harvest all of these bee houses much faster. Being able to do it fast is important because there are many other fun things we need to do in Stardew Valley. Alright, I ended up with 289 fairy rose honey. Unfortunately, some of my bee houses were not in range of a flower and produced regular honey. So there are definitely some improvements that can be made. I also had a bad placement of one of my flowers and accidentally harvested it, which wasn't ideal. But we managed to make close to 280,000 gold. That is actually impressive. This will definitely help out with the road to my billionaire challenge. I forgot about this spot here. You can also grow crops here, and that means you can have a flower honey set up here. It's not that big, but every bit counts. Thank you so much for watching this video. It actually was a lot of fun to make because I have just been harvesting starfruit and turning them into wine for so many hours. This was a great change of pace. I am just going to do this for fun because this actually took quite a while to set up, and if you are not new to my channel, you know I love bombs and exploding things. So let's just casually explode all of the bee houses just for fun. I mean, why not? But don't worry, I won't be saving. This took way too long to just destroy all of my progress. If you like this video, consider subscribing, and as always, I will see you in the next video.